Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we are discussing one of the earliest Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbos ever made. This is an early A-series Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbo 5402 diamond Petite Tapisserie dial in stainless steel. This is one of the original, straight from the pen of Gerald Genta and out of Les Bracelet at a time when the watch was still the newest thing on the luxury sports watch market, starting its long run and its period of influence, intellectual hegemony, one might even say, over this class of sporting timepiece. Taking a quick look at it, you can see it's a lot thinner than a modern jumbo. At 39 millimeters in diameter, the diameter is the same, but 7.3 millimeters thick is almost a millimeter thinner than the current version of the watch. It is 48.1 millimeters from lug to lug. We'll throw it on my wrist. It wears beautifully. It is very flat, very flush. And as you can see, just like the modern jumbo, it's more of a sporty dress watch today than a true sports watch. But in stainless steel, it's robust, and you can see we haven't refinished this watch, nor will we. Flat enough to fit underneath the cuff. It could easily be your dress timepiece, and it's relatively short across the wrist. These early jumbos wear more easily on small wrists than later examples because the bracelet has a little bit more flexibility to it. Unlike the modern bracelet, which doesn't like to pull straight down, that's less of a problem with the earlier ones. A modern jumbo is going to do this. It's going to flare out. You can't pull it down. Here you really can, so it'll wear on a smaller wrist. Now, taking a quick look at the bracelet, you can see we haven't touched this Gay Frère bracelet. It is beautiful. It is a original, and it is very, very early. You could see the Gay Frère stamp, GF internally, and then 172 for the production of the clasp and the bracelet. As with all Royal Oak Jumbos, you can see that all Royal Oak Jumbos in a metal. The removable links are fixed in place by screws here. The clasp has a clamshell lock that allows you to secure the bracelet, and the tolerance remains quite tight, so it still snaps shut securely. Here you can see that from the earliest days, we have screws and bars fixing the bracelet to the case, and that is the idea. Keep it quite secure. This was an expensive watch for its time. It cost over 3,000 Swiss francs, which was more than enough to buy a car, an unheard of price for a steel watch, so you want to make sure this one stays on the wrist, and to this day it does. No spring bars used, screws and bars, more secure, the right way to make an expensive watch. The bracelet is fully integrated into the case and lugs, and that was the notion of Gerald Genta. Though he was a prolific designer of watches, he considered himself first and foremost a jewelry designer, and he envisioned the Royal Oak as a bracelet that just happens to tell time. He also envisioned it as an homage to a vintage diving helmet, and that's where this rounded octagon form comes from. You could see it is polished on its flank and satinated on its top. We have hexagonal bolts inside the octagonal bezel, and those bolts are made of white gold, so you can see the tonal contrast between the warmth of white gold and the silver white shine of steel. Here we have a crown, which likewise is hexagonal to match the bolts. Then we have the Petite Tapisserie hobnail dial cut on a pantograph. At the time, this was done at Stern Frère, and you can see it is a small hobnail. It is a very dark navy blue, but you're going to have to take my word for it. It's not black, it's blue. This one features diamond indices and unloomed baton hands at center to match. You can see that there is a little date aperture, and the watch has a semi-quickset mechanism for the date where you back the hour hand from 10 o'clock through midnight, and that ratchets the date forward. Now, though you can't see it, underneath the case back, and I'll give you a good view of the case back here, we have a JLC 920 that was a movement designed by JLC in 1967 for AP, Patek, and Vacheron, and used exclusively by those brands. It's the same movement that powered the Vacheron 222 in 1977 and the Patek Philippe 3700 Nautilus in 1976. Now, Patek Philippe, Vacheron, and AP were the only brands ever to use this movement. It was never used in a JLC. It was never used in any client watch that used JLC movements other than the Holy Trinity. Now, the movement is very, very thin, being only 2.4 millimeters thick in its base form without the date. I believe it's only 3.05 millimeters thick with the date. The case protects it because it is a monoblock design, so everything loads through the front. If you pull the crown out on these early Royal Oaks, everything lowers in from the front, and you can see how that happens. The dial and the movement come in as one piece, and that's because the case and the case back are all one piece. So the movement is ultra thin, automatic winding. It has a 40-hour power reserve. It beats away at the vintagey 19,800 vibration per hour rate. It has 36 pivot jewels, the semi-quickset date, and it uses a beryllium rotor that has a gold mass on one side. The beryllium rotor is mounted on 4 ruby bearings that allows the rotor to be sunk super close to the base plate without any danger of the rotor coming into contact with the base plate or the mass coming into contact with the bridges. That helps to shrink wrap the rotor around the bridges and plates. It's a very clever design system, and that's one of the reasons why right up until last year this movement was still in service in the Royal Oak Jumbo. This, one of the first 110 Royal Oak A series ever made, is one of the absolute earliest of the breed and a true blue chip for your collection. This could very easily be an exit watch, even for a prolific collector. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.